Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabha. Hello everyone. So today I feel like talking about what is an Arahant. So for people who study Theravada Buddhism, one should be quite familiar with the term Arahant. In this video, I talk more from the Mahayana perspective because I practice Mahayana Buddhism. So Arahant in Pali or Arhat in Sanskrit literally means the worthy one. They realize enlightenment through following the Buddha's earliest teachings, such as the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. It's the highest level of enlightenment in Theravada Buddhism. So in Theravada Buddhism, there are 4 levels of enlightenment. Sotapanna, string enterer; Sakadagami, once returner; Anagami, non-returner; and Arahant. So although Arahant is the highest level of enlightenment in Theravada Buddhism, it's only equivalent to a very basic level of enlightenment in Mahayana Buddhism. So I talked about before how Mahayana Buddhism, there are a total of 52 stages of enlightenment. So 51 stages for the Bodhisattvas, and with the 52nd being the final Buddhahood. The level of enlightenment of Arahant is equivalent to the 7th stage of faith in the Bodhisattva path. This is a very, very basic level of enlightenment. It's like the primary school of enlightenment in Mahayana Buddhism. Although it's a basic level of enlightenment, it is still enlightenment. And also Arhats or Arahants, they are free from the cycle of reincarnation. They have completely let go of all the attachment, such as attachment to the self, attachment to rites and rituals, attachment to the wrong perceptions, attachment to lust, attachment to greed, anger, ignorance, pride, and doubt. They are free from the 10 fetters, the fetters of perceptions and thoughts, and hence they are free from the cycle of reincarnation, and they will no longer be reborn in the cycle of reincarnation. Although Arahants are free from all kinds of attachment, but they still have one kind of attachment. They are attached to the very little Dharma that they know of. They are attached to the state of Arahant. They think that that's it. That's the angle of Buddhism, to be an Arahant, and now there is nothing else to do. They will just dwell in the state of this nirvana for a tremendously long time. And they don't generate bodhicitta, unlike the bodhisattvas. They don't want to help save sentient beings. So they enter nirvana only for their self-salvation instead of benefiting all sentient beings. So to become an Arahant is not the angle of Buddhism, very far from it. If anything, it is only just the very beginning of enlightenment. Think about it. What's the use of your enlightenment if you cannot help other beings? And think about it, when the Buddha realized the perfect enlightenment, he didn't just sit there and dwell in his state of bliss. Instead, he came out and taught the Dharma to all sentient beings. So we can also be benefited. So all the sentient beings can also be liberated from all sufferings in life. So it is really, really clear, really obvious that the stage of Arahant is actually not the angle of Buddhism. This is just one of the skillful means, the expedient means adopted by the Buddha to teach the 3 vehicles. The vehicle of Shavaka. So Shavakas means the hearers, those who listen to the earliest Buddha's teachings, such as the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, and aspire to become an Arahant. So this vehicle of Shavaka and the vehicle of Pratyeka Buddha, which we'll also talk about Pratyeka Buddha in the next video, and the vehicle of Bodhisattva, all these are just skillful means adopted by the Buddha, because the Buddha expounded the Dharma in accordance to sentient beings, different preferences, capacities, and karma. So all these are simply skillful means adopted by the Buddha, but eventually what the Buddha wants is for all of us to realize Buddhahood. Or otherwise, the Buddha would just say, the Arhat nature is within everybody. But he didn't say that. He said the Buddha nature is within all beings. So what the Buddha really wants is for us to realize the perfect enlightenment. This is also clearly evident in the Lotus Sutra, and we'll also talk about that in the near future. So Arahant is not the angle of Buddhism. It's like an illusory capital like the Buddha described in the Lotus Sutra. It's not the perfect enlightenment yet. That's why one should not be attached. And also Theravada Buddhists think that once they become an Arahant, they will not be reborn in any form. It is true that they will not be reborn in the cycle of samsara, in the cycle of reincarnation, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist anywhere. The Arahants, they will also live in their own Pure Lands. So the Pure Lands are also manifested by their mind, like another dimension, think about it. So in that land, there will be Arahants, there will be practical Buddhas, and also low level of Bodhisattvas. So this type of land is called the land of expedient means with remainder. So expedient means is because the path of Shavaka and practical Buddha, all these are simply expedient means taught by the Buddha. And with remainder is because this kind of nirvana, the nirvana attained by Arahant, it's not the perfect nirvana. It's not the end yet. Arahants, they still have a kind of ignorance that they have not gotten rid of. The ignorance of the higher teachings of the Buddha, the ignorance of the truth of the middle path. Even the state of nirvana is not to be attached. They're still attached to their state of enlightenment. So that's why this kind of land is called the land of expedient means with remainder. So this is categorized by Master Zhizhe, the manifestation of Shakyamuni Buddha in China, where he founded the first Tiantai school. So he categorized the 4 different types of Pure Lands that are recited by the sages. And this is also based from the sutras. So we'll talk more about these different categories of Pure Lands in the future. So Pure Lands are not just Buddha's Pure Lands like the land of ultimate bliss. There are also other Pure Lands. So they will dwell in the state of nirvana for a very long time, and eventually they will be bodhisattvas and Buddhas who go and expound the Mahayana path to them. They will expound the Lotus Sutra. They will also tell them, hey, don't dwell in this state. This is not the end yet. You need to generate bodhicitta, take up the bodhisattva path. They will also encourage them to attain rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. So in the Mahayana Sutras and in the Pure Land Sutras, we also see that there are infinite Arahants from all the worlds in the 10 directions who attain rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. So eventually Arahants, if they're real Arahants, they will also accept the Mahayana path. They will eventually also take up the Bodhisattva path and also be born in the Buddha's Pure Land and also help save sentient beings. But it will just take them a very long time to eventually generate the bodhicitta. That is why for Mahayanists, if you now study Mahayana Buddhism, I will encourage all the Mahayanists to really just generate bodhicitta and take up the bodhisattva path. In some Mahayana sutras, the Buddha also said all these Arahants is like falling into the hole of non-doing. So that's why sometimes people may think, Buddhism is a bit passive or negative. Maybe they only encounter the Shavaka path. They have not encountered the Mahayana path. The Mahayana path, the Bodhisattva path, is not passive at all. The Bodhisattva path is very active to help save all sentient beings. If there is an angle in Buddhism, it will really be this, to help save sentient beings, even for one to realize the perfect enlightenment, to realize the Buddhahood is not the end yet. Eventually, you need to use this enlightenment to help save sentient beings. Otherwise, what's the use of your enlightenment if it only benefits you but not others? What benefits have you contributed to the world, to the society? Buddha is not selfish, so Arahant is not the angle of Buddhism. Very, very far from it. And I remember hearing a devout Buddhist monk once told me, bodhisattvas, they still have to come back to samsara. It seemed like they think that a bodhisattva will still have to go through the suffering in the samsara. This is not true. For bodhisattvas, they're already enlightened. Even when they come back to samsara, they're not affected by anything. And they may perform like they're going through the similar sufferings like the sentient beings here, but in fact they are not affected, unaffected, untainted. So do not think that the bodhisattva's job is, so tiring, they have to come back to samsara, they have to go through suffering. It's very different. For them, the Buddhas and bodhisattvas, they come back, it's just like playing games, like magic. They're not affected by anything here. Although they may perform like they're being affected, but in truth, they're not being affected. And I also heard this Theravada Buddhist monk told me they're helping the bodhisattvas by entering into nirvana to become arahants, so the bodhisattvas have less sentient beings to save. Well, this is also actually not really true because there are always infinite sentient beings. So it's better off if arahants can also generate bodhicitta to take up the bodhisattva's path and to help together with the bodhisattvas to save all sentient beings. That will be really helping the bodhisattvas. Saying that, there are also arahants that take up the bodhisattva path. For instance, in Mahayana sutras, we see that when Shakyamuni Buddha entered into Paradamana, he instructed 16 arahants to remain in the world to help spread the Dharma. And we may be like, where are the arahants? So they are in the Saha world, but not all of them are on earth. Earth is only a very small part of the Saha world. And even if they are here on earth, they will appear like ordinary beings that we cannot really tell. And also, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can also come to this world to be Arahants. Many of Shakyamuni Buddha's great disciples, which are Arahants, they were actually also Bodhisattvas and even Buddhas who came back, who take up the role of Arahants to be the disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha. So when a Buddha comes to this world, there are 1,000 Buddhas and also countless Bodhisattvas who will come here and help spread the Dharma. So we'll talk more about this in the future. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabha.